Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you the best tips and tools to inspire you to create beautiful home decor on a budget. According to the poll I put on my community tab, you guys wanted to see some spring decor, some non-seasonal farmhouse decor. So I'm excited to tell you that I today have 6 brand new spring and or non-seasonal farmhouse home decor craft projects. So let's get crafting. For our first DIY, we're going to take 4 of these wood pallets from Dollar Tree and make a pallet square wall decor. We're also going to use some greenery, some ribbon, and one of these woodward stickers from Hobby Lobby. Now, I had already painted these to use for a different project, but I'm just going to give them a fresh coat of Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White. So yours would just look plain when you start, but go ahead and paint them white. I did paint mine black on the back, but you don't have to do that as the back will not be visible. So once those were dry, I did take my little sander and I distressed them a little bit. Now, because I had the black underneath, the distressing was showing black, which was cool. So if you like that effect, you could paint them black first and then do the white over the top. Once I had them how I wanted, I'm taking some wood glue and I'm gluing a shorter end to the long end side of a pallet next to it. So you can see how I have them laid out there in a square, and we'll glue them together like this. You'll have a little square hole left in the center. Once you have them all wood glued together, I suggest just setting them aside for a couple hours, at least one, to make sure that they are completely stuck together before you start moving them around. So for the center of my sign, I wanted a little wreath. So I had this little grapevine wreath, and I'm just taking pieces of boxwood from Walmart and I'm gluing them around on top of each other. So you can see how I have this piece covering the stem of the piece before it, and then this piece now is a little bit further around the circle, covering the stem of the one before it. So I just took my time. This plastic did tend to want to melt, so I tried not to hold my glue gun to it too long, but you can find any sort of wreath like the one off to the right there. They sold at the Target dollar spot, but whatever type of wreath you want. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this down right to the center of my sign. Next, I'm taking one of these wood word stickers from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to use the word blessed. I'm just taking a Sharpie marker to color it and darken it to make it black. I'm also going to use that tan colored tag from Hobby Lobby to add a little bit to this sign. So once I had the word colored in, I'm just going to stick it onto the center of the tag there that I've tied around my wreath to kind of hang, and then I am going to add a little dot of glue on the back to hold my tag in place. Then taking some of this black and white gingham ribbon from Dollar Tree, I'm going to tie a simple bow, leave the tails a little bit longer, and we're going to glue this kind of to the opposite corner of the wreath. And here's our finished sign. I just love how cute and farmhouse and neutral this is. You could, of course, take this idea and add any color to it and make it seasonal or holiday specific. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time today, welcome. I'm so glad that you found me. I hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. And if you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for continuing to come back each and every week and your support and encouragement in the comments of each video. I hope everyone will be sure to tap that bell. Just check to make sure your notifications are still set to all, so YouTube will let you know when I upload a new video or go live here on my channel. For DIY number 2, we're going to use one of these arched windows and a crate from Dollar Tree, as well as a couple of other items to make a little flower box for spring. Now you can do this DIY with any color scheme you'd like, but I took that center card off and I'm going to paint my window and my crate with Waverly's Agave. It's a little bit lighter of a teal color. This window is plastic though, so once I do my 2 coats of paint on it, getting in all the nooks and crannies, I am going to spray my window with a clear spray just to make sure the paint doesn't scratch off the plastic. I'm also going to paint my wood crate from Dollar Tree with the same color inside and out. Once our 2 pieces are completely dry, I'm going to take a bead of hot glue along the back edge of my crate, and then I'm going to line that up and glue it to the bottom of my window. Now, this is not enough to keep this, but you'll see in a bit we're going to add some wood sticks to the back to hold the 2 together. Now, I'm taking some of this jute twine that has wire in it, and I had an idea to kind of keep bending it and looping it around to make a flower with 5 petals. So that's what I did. And then I'm going to glue that where that cardboard sign was. So putting some hot glue down, we're going to glue that down to the center. And then I'm going to take this purple flower. I thought it was so pretty from Dollar Tree. Trim down the little stem and we're going to glue that right in the center as well. Of course, if you prefer different colors, different flowers, feel free to use whatever makes you happy. Then I'm going to take some more of that boxwood and I'm going to glue a piece under each side, right and left of the flowers there in the center. And then you've got the box. You can either use this to hold keys. I am going to put some floral foam and moss and some florals in it, but you could use this to hold things. You could use it to hold mail as well. Now here on the back, I am going to glue some pieces of large craft sticks across where the crate and the window are being held together, just for extra support so the window will stay attached to the crate. And here's my finished project. I love the bright cheery colors for spring. Again, you could use that crate to hold things other than more florals like keys or mail. DIY number 3 is super simple, but one I've been wanting to make for spring for a while. Using any of these embroidery hoops, some pages from a book, a little bit of greenery, and some ribbon. We're going to make some really cute spring decor. So I'm taking these 2 small embroidery hoops. These are actually ones I purchased at Walmart, and I'm tracing the outside of the hoop onto a page from a book that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to make 2 of these, so I will do the exact same thing, and then we will go ahead and cut out our circle from both of our book pages. To attach the hoop to the book page, we'll simply do a bead of hot glue around the back side of our embroidery hoop, and then we will just lay that down, centering it as best as we can on that book page circle. Next, I'm just taking one little piece of greenery and gluing it at the top there of the hoop so that it hangs down in front of the book page. We'll do that to both pieces. And then I'm just going to make a couple of simple bows using whatever ribbon you choose to glue over the end piece there of the greenery. Then the last step is just to add some jute twine to hang these. You could hang these on a wall or in a window. Very, very cute, and they don't take up a lot of space. If you are not already following me on Facebook on my Monarch Mom DIY Facebook page, I would love it if you would head over there and follow me. I do go live there 3 times a week doing different projects than what I am showing here on YouTube. For DIY number 4, we're going to take one of these Dollar Tree barn shapes for Valentine's, and we're going to give it a makeover for spring. I'm also going to use this Home Sweet Home stencil from Magnolia. So the first thing I'm doing is taking my scrapbook paper I want to use, and just with my fingernail, I'm making an outline of the roof line there so I could trim my paper down to fit perfectly on the front of this barn shape. Now I will say I had to do the Mod Podge twice because this cover sheet is kind of glossy. So do yourself a favor and peel as much of that off as you can before you Mod Podge your scrapbook paper on. So I'm getting that Mod Podge on, smoothing out my cardstock there and letting that dry. Now I have this coaster, it's kind of cardboard, and you could use a wood circle for this. I'm going to paint this with our agave color that we've been using in this video, and then we'll just set that aside to dry, and then I am going to Mod Podge over that because I'm going to be stenciling on top of this, and I don't want the stencil to pull up the paint. Once my scrapbook paper was dry, I can use my little fingertip Fisker's knife here and just trim away the excess scrapbook paper that was on the sides of the barn. And then I'm also going to take my little sander and clean up the sides just by sanding it in a downward motion to get any other little pieces or scraps of scrapbook paper hanging over the edge. Now that the paint and Mod Podge on my circle are dry, I'm going to fuzz my stencil a couple times and center the words Home Sweet Home on the circle. I'm not going to do the greenery around. I'm just going to do the words, and I'm going to use my Living Coral. It's kind of a peach color that's also in that scrapbook paper, so this worked out perfectly to stencil those words onto our circle. Once that chalk paste was dry, I'm going to take a thin bead of hot glue around the outer edge of the circle, and I'm going to outline our circle with some jute twine. This is just giving another texture, adding a little farmhouse effect, and it's a fun way to be able to frame out that circle. So I'm going all the way around, and then we'll finish it at the top. Then once our circle's done, we'll hot glue this right to the center of our barn. I noticed my scrapbook paper was a little short at the bottom, so I decided to take a piece of this ribbon and just use that kind of as an edging at the bottom. So we'll hot glue it down on the front. I also made a bow using that same ribbon that I'm going to glue there at the top of the barn. And we'll also wrap that ribbon around the bottom, the sides, and onto the back. And the boxwood from Walmart makes another appearance. I'm just going to take 2 little pieces and glue those behind our bow at the top of our barn to add a little bit more green, and then this project will be finished. So I encourage you, if you find these shapes still in your store for Valentine's, even if you don't want to use them for Valentine's, grab them up. You can always change them out for spring, even for fall and Christmas. For a complete list of all the supplies I'm using in today's projects, click the down arrow next to the title of this video. That will open up the description box where you will see a complete list for each of today's projects. For DIY number 5, we're going to make a Hello Spring round sign using this wood round from Hobby Lobby, as well as these tall skinny letters, a couple of Magnolia stencils, and some ribbon from Dollar Tree. So this wood round is 14 inches. I'm going to take a piece of painter's tape and I'm dividing it in half so that I can paint first the top half with white chalk paint. So we're using Waverly, and we're just going to give it 1 coat and then let that dry completely. While that's drying, I'll take our tall letters from Hobby Lobby. I have some tape on the back of them to hold them down, and I'm going to use Ballet Slipper Pink to paint the S, R, and N. And then we'll come back in with the yellow color called Maize and do the other 3 letters. Now, once the top half of our round is dry, I'm taking a new piece of painter's tape, and now I'm putting it right at the edge there where the white ends so that we can paint the bottom half with our agave. Once the agave was dry, I did take my matte finish Mod Podge and I did do a layer of it over the entire round. I am going to be stenciling on top of this paint, so I want to make sure it's going to stay. So that's why I do the Mod Podge on top of the paint. Now I'm using one of my favorite pattern stencils from Magnolia. It's called Butterfly Pattern. This is so great for spring. I'm lining up the edge of my pattern right at that line where the white and the agave meet. Now this pattern is a repeating pattern, so you can see I've got a space there on the right. I'm going to have to move my stencil to continue it over. I'm using the bright pink raspberry chalk paste to get this beautiful pattern onto the lower half of my round. And you'll see here in a second, we'll peel it up. It'll be a beautiful pattern, and then we'll place it back down to finish up the pattern on the right side of the round. And here's what it looks like with the pattern continued all the way over to the right. Now I'm taking this Hello stencil. This is from the Spring and Summer Porch Sitters set. We have other stencils that say hello as well, but I'm going to stencil this up on the top left of our round using Pansy. I'm using lots of bright cheery colors with this round, and it just makes me so happy. So just applying a little bit of chalk paste on our stencil, we'll peel that up and reveal the stenciled word of hello. Now coming back to those wood letters that we painted, I'm going to hot glue these on the bottom half of our round. I love the mixture of the light pastels with the bright colors on the round. I just think it's so fun and cheerful. So I'm just lining those up, gluing them down one at a time to get them centered as much as I possibly can. The last thing we're going to do for our round here is we're going to make a nice big, bright, messy bow. So I'm using 2 pieces of each of some ribbons I got from Dollar Tree for Easter. So you can see this big wired plaid one. I have kind of this sheer pink one. We also have this narrower one that has bright Easter eggs on it. We have this pink and white with the little fuzz balls is actually from Hobby Lobby. And then we have a skinnier teal and the pink that we used on the barn-shaped Home Sweet Home sign that we did earlier. So we're going to first take these and we're going to line them up and dovetail them. And then that helps trim them, keeps the edges from fraying, and then we'll lay them out crisscross left, right until we pile them all the way up to the skinny ribbon at the top. Once we have all of our ribbons laid out how we want them, I'm taking some jute twine across the front and then flipping it over to the back. I'm going to tie as tight of a knot as I possibly can while kind of scrunching and squishing the ribbons together. Now this is a thicker piece of jute twine than I normally like to use, but I could not find my super skinny jute twine. So we made it work. And once you have that knot tied super tight, you can trim off the excess of your jute twine and then flip it back over and kind of fluff out your bow. Now I decided rather than gluing my bow right to my round, I'm going to glue a pair of magnets actually, to the wood round. And then I'm going to glue my bow to the top magnet. I just feel like this is a little more secure. Sometimes when I glue bows onto projects and then maybe they're on the door, they get a little hot, they fall off. But I know that this magnet is not going to fall off. So fluff out your bow. You've got the magnet there to hold it to the board. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just glue a bright pink button to the center of our bow. If you love budget home decor DIY videos like this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, as that lets YouTube know people are enjoying my content and then they will show it to more and more viewers. For our last DIY today, I'm going to take some salt shakers from Dollar Tree and turn them into some vintage looking vases. We'll also be using some florals and some jute twine. So the first thing I always do when I'm going to paint shiny glass like this is I take my matte finish Mod Podge and I do paint a coat of this wherever I'm wanting to put chalk paint. And then I let that dry completely. I just feel like this helps the paint adhere better to the glass and not come right off. Then once that's dry, I'm going to take Pink Cloud. It's a new Waverly color for me. It's kind of a light peach, coral, I guess. And I am going to paint 2 coats on these vases, these little salt shakers. I'm going to do 2 of them in this color Pink Cloud, and then I'm going to do 2 of them in Pool Blue. Next, to make sure the paint didn't chip off, I did do Mod Podge again over the paint. Now, after this dries, I'm going to come in with my little sander to kind of distress these a little bit. That would have been easier to do before the Mod Podge. So do your distressing before you do your final coat of Mod Podge, and your hand will not hurt like mine did. But I still love how these turned out by distressing them with my little sander and just making them look nice and worn and old. Once those were done, I took more jute twine and I'm going to glue 2 times around on the threads and then 1 more time around down closer to the square part of the shaker. And I'm doing this to add some farmhouse look to it, but also to give me a better place to add some florals. I feel like the florals would stick better to the jute twine than to the plain glass. So here you can see I'm using some of these little flowers from Dollar Tree. I'm just cutting some of the pieces off, 2 different sizes, and gluing them at the top of our little vases. And here are the finished vases. I think they're so cute and dainty. I love the colors. I love the distressing and the teeny tiny flowers. Thanks again so much for joining me today. Please let me know in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.